And I want to start with this, Deadleg Norlander. You, if you had to bet your 401k, and I don't know that you would. You don't seem like
I would not. Before you even ask me, I will not. But continue.
Yeah, but if I put a weapon to your head,
let's not start off too aggressive here. It's the middle of April.
If I put a bazooka to your head up against your temple, and I said you now must bet your 401k, and the only way you get to retain it is if in 5 years we look up and we go, the hire you're about to tell me, that is the actual best hire from the offseason of 2024. What hire do you go with? Maybe this is a different way to put it. Which hire do you believe in most?
Okay, I'm going to narrow this in this carousel recap episode that Parrish was begging me to do. Fine, Parrish, I'll finally do the carousel recap episode. Okay, just for you. Okay. I'm going to limit this to high majors. We will get to a couple of notable mid-major ones because there are. I truly think that the answer here probably would be at the mid-major level, but let's stick to the power conference because we had 14 changes, which is about as many as we've seen in a long, long time. Among that, and before we get out of here, I want to get into our best fits overall and maybe our most intriguing hires. Those are two different things, even if there can be crossover. I think the one that has the best chance of being the most successful long term. Can I have one stipulation with this?
Sure.
Where I think it's the coach that has the best chance at having the most long term success and then not leaving necessarily. That's if you're again threatening my life or my 401k
with a bazooka.
Yeah, exactly.
Next to your temple.
I think my answer here, because this coach really wanted the job, got the job, is a really good fit. The job is very tough, but I think the program over the next 7 to 10 years will be better under this coach than it has been over the previous 10 to 15. I think I'm going to give you Kyle Smith at Stanford. Now, Stanford is moving to the ACC. It is something of a black sheep in that conference, although not as much as SMU. We will obviously get to that as well. But I think Kyle Smith has a really healthy chance at getting Stanford at least semi-regularly relevant in the sport, getting to the NCAA tournament, and he is a very, very good fit. Whereas there are other ones, and I definitely want to hear your answer on this as well, like Eric Musselman, it could absolutely work. Right, he's going back to Southern California, and we'll get into all the stuff with him even getting that job and reset a lot of this stuff. But he's also going into the Big Ten, which has been a better league on balance over the past 5 to 7 years. He's deeper into his career, and Musselman historically doesn't like he's coming off his longest tenure ever at Arkansas, and it's 5 years. So I like buying long term on that. I'm just not entirely sure. Other guys like Danny Sprinkle, Mark Byington, Jake Diebler, these are not proven guys. Dusty May, not even super proven. And then meantime, like what if Kelsey absolutely hits it out of the park, but for one reason or another, he hits it out of the park so much that he leaves Louisville in 5 years or 6 years. I'm not saying, so I'm taking that into calculation as well. My answer would be Kyle Smith. What is your answer, GP?
I considered Kyle Smith. And maybe it'll explain as I actually settle on an answer, you'll understand why I at least considered Kyle Smith, because I think expectations are a part of this. Like the expectations for John Calipari at Arkansas are different than the expectations for Kyle Smith at Stanford. But, Stanford has won at an extremely high level consistently before. It's just been a minute, but they've done it. I'm concerned about the conference change. I just, I'd like to see them, how they settle into that thing before I, put my 401k to play along on that one. So I shied away from it, but I don't think it's absurd. Do you know where I've got a handful of names and they're all sort of tied to the same thing. But if I had to put one, and this is going to be crazy, like not something I thought I would have said 2 months ago, not even something I could have imagined saying 2 months ago.
Yeah, are you about to give me Holtman at DePaul right now?
No. Although I do
like, don't be ridiculous. Don't be ridiculous.
Okay, but the reason I'm not going to give you Holtman at DePaul will play into the same type of argument. I think he's a great coach with a hard job. You know what I'm going with? Jake Diebler at Ohio State.
Oh my goodness. Are you really?
I believe in the job. and I believe in him. Like when he took over that team, he flipped it. They were one of the better teams in the country. I don't want to say top 10 or anything like that, but he flipped that team. What he showed is a level of competence coaching a basketball team and running that basketball program, if only for a month or so, but still for a month or so. And then he's done the job away from the court in the first month of the off season, the way you need to be able to do the job off the court. He obviously has incredible NIL backing. At least that's my understanding. So, and here's the other thing. He's young and he's not obvious to be the next head coach at Ohio State when he was hired to be the next head coach at Ohio State. You know what that suggests to me? And I always pick up on things like this. I'm always interested in things like this. I promise you, whatever combination of Gene Smith and Ross Bjork were involved in this and other administrators, they did not go into this thing thinking they were hiring Jake Diebler. Mm-hmm. He convinced them at some point. They were around him. They saw him work. They talked with him. They talked to other people around him. They got to see it up close. And they said, why are we, or at least they reached a point where they said, why are we continuing to look for our next coach when he's right here in front of us? They believed in him. The same way at Butler, once upon a time, they believed in a Brad Stevens who was young and not obvious. And I'm not saying Jake Diebler's Brad Stevens.
Did you?
No. I'm just saying I am always interested when people look at somebody who isn't an obvious candidate, but they're right there in front of them and they go, this is the guy. I believe in this guy. And because it makes me go, what did you see? Because that's not something somebody not in the room could have seen. But he did the job on the court. He's done the job away from the court. He convinced, at least on some level, 2 different prominent athletic directors to believe in him. Those are all good signs. And I think he's just set up to win at Ohio State, because I think Ohio State is set up to win in the sport of men's basketball and, frankly, most sports. I believe in Jake Diebler. I remember us even talking about the idea of them hiring him before they did. And I was like, you have to look at it. You can go back and find it, whatever episode it was. I said, he's done enough to make me, you have to take a hard look at this. And obviously they did. Then they reached the decision they reached. And so far, I can't imagine they'd be happier. I've got him 15th in the top 25 and 1 right now. He has flipped this thing overnight. And I believe in what I've seen so far. He would maybe top my list of the hire I have the most confidence in, that in terms of it's going to reach or exceed the expectations the fans of that school have placed upon it.
Roster-wise, what GP's alluding to here, Bruce Thornton is back to run the point, which is big. Devin Royal also back. Aaron Bradshaw, former 5-star prospect, highly rated prospect, just an up and down year at Kentucky, obviously. He is going to Ohio State. Micah Parrish, that's really the reason why. Let's be real here.
My little nephew.
Cousin. Yeah, or nephew. Okay, I thought it was your cousin, but okay.
Sometimes he's my little cousin. Sometimes he's my little nephew.
All right, 23andMe it. I guess I can't keep up with all the family tree stuff. Now, Feliz Akpara got... he transferred out recently in the past 48 hours or so. So no Akpara, very good defensive player. We'll see on that where it goes there. And then actually, coincidentally enough, not knowing that you were going to give me Diebler, they may or may not add a very big transfer piece here. You lose Felix Akpara, and then Trey Townsend, who was at Oakland, grad transfer. I was told earlier on Tuesday he is either going to go to Ohio State or Arizona, and that decision is coming this week. So if they were to get Townsend, Horizon League Player of the Year, really, really good player, that would be another big ad there. But we'll see if it's going to be Buckeyes or Wildcats. We'll wait and see on that. Diebler, it is interesting that you give me Diebler, because what I'm about to present you is not my opinion. It is the opinion of people around college basketball, and that's stuff I've gathered over the past month. A very polarizing hire, and understandably so. Super young, got the job after they fired Chris Holtmann on an interim basis on Valentine's Day, and there are some that are skeptical that Ohio State made the right decision. And it's understandable why this opinion would be out there, Parrish, right? You would agree that you're at Ohio State, top 20 job in the country, in the Big Ten. You're adding 4 more teams. You're having an 18-team conference, highly competitive, and now you are choosing to hand the keys to someone who has no Division I experience, was previously on staff at Vanderbilt, and has not had success follow him step by step the whole step of the way. But it certainly is intriguing, and later on the show, I'll give you kind of my most intriguing hires. Diebler's on that list because of him being chosen. He brought on Joel Justice, by the way, who was on staff and part of the NC State's Elite Eight run, and now he's deciding to join up, which is, frankly, at the assistant level, that's a pretty big hire there overall. So we'll see. There's the potential you could be right, but there is the potential that it just misses because he's never done it. Right. And maybe we're looking up in 3 years and Ohio State's making another new hire. You never know.
Yeah. Well, you never know. We could say that same paragraph about every one of these, right? Every one of these. And I want to be clear, I think John Calipari is going to be good at Arkansas, but is it going to reach or exceed expectations? I don't know that. The way I'm sort of trying to define this in my head is in 5 years, which fan base will be pleased the most with the way things have gone since they made this hire in March or April 2024. And what you just said about Jake Diebler being a divisive hire within the industry, because on a surface level, it makes no sense. That's precisely why I believe in it.
Yeah.
All the negatives that those people are trying out to you are the reasons I believe in it, because it makes no sense. There's nothing on his resume that says this guy should be the head coach at Ohio State, right? Nothing.
Yes.
Nothing. But he is. And that means and I promise you, Gene Smith and Ross Bjork and whoever, they didn't plan on this. This was not the plan. There's nobody in December thought Jake Diebler was going to be the next head coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes, but he did enough to convince the people who need to be convinced that he's competent enough and talented enough to do the job. And I don't want to overstate it because it's a small sample size, but in every way you can do the job, since he's been given the job, he's done it.
Yes.
There were reports that Bruce Thornton was out 1 foot out the door. Yeah. As soon as they fire Chris on Valentine's Day, he's getting bombarded by other schools. He was able to, that's a huge recruiting win. Don't gloss over. He kept Bruce Thornton. That wasn't easy. Not every coach would have. Not every coach would have. He did that. Yeah. He goes against Michie Johnson.
I was going to say, I think I didn't mention before, Michie Johnson. Yeah,
he gets a commitment from Michie Johnson's brother, right? A 5-star prospect in high school. I'm a believer in what Aaron Bradshaw can be, not so much in what he was, but there's a long list of guys who didn't play much at Kentucky, went somewhere else and did, popped. Bryce Hopkins, again, Johnny Juzang, a long list. I'm a believer in what Aaron Bradshaw is going to be. I don't only think Ohio State's going to be good next year. I think they're going to be consistently good. And all the negatives you point out, I can twist them into positives and say, you're exactly right. How did this guy get this job? You're exactly right. There's nothing, if you don't know him and all you do is look at the resume, the Wikipedia page, there's no reason he should be the head coach at Ohio State. The fact that he is, despite of that, I think is actually encouraging.
What's interesting about this cycle, and I guess we should break here, but you can send it in just a second, is this year, to me, more than many, many recent years, there were more interconnected tentacles between jobs, and Ohio State opening when it did. Coincidentally enough, DePaul was the first one to open at a power conference level, then Ohio State. And lo and behold, Ohio State's former coach becomes DePaul's current coach. We'll get to Holtman before we get out of here. Was intriguing, in addition to everything that had downstream effects with Dusty May, and then how that impacted what I really want to get to, which is the butterfly effect that impacted 6 programs with one after another, and we can reset that as well.
Yeah, just some other names that fall under this umbrella. Then we'll break, come back, take the conversation where you want to take it. They're all kind of the same. I believe in the jobs. I think Mark Pope's going to be good at Kentucky. It's probably not, I would have made Billy Donovan tell me no 5 times before I hired Mark Pope. But now that Mark Pope's the coach, I think he'll be fine there. I think he'll be good there. And here's another one, Pat Kelsey. I think he'll be good at Louisville. I just think any competent coach would be good at Kentucky and would be good at Louisville. And frankly, I think the same thing of Ohio State, perhaps a level below those, certainly historically. But I think those are if you're a competent coach, you should do well at those jobs. And I know sometimes an injury here, or you get too young, or, there's a dramatic shift in the landscape of college athletics. All of that stuff can play a role in anybody's demise, I guess. But I believe in the Kentucky job. I believe in the Louisville job. I believe in the Ohio State job. And I think those three guys, even if none of them are necessarily the people I would have tried to hire initially, I think they'll all three do well there. And in terms of like the more established guys, I think Muss is going to do great at USC. It's just like, for how long? There's nothing in his career that says, he'll be there more than 5 or 6 years at most. So we'll see. But I do think he'll do fine there. And I do think John Calipari will be really good at Arkansas. It's just, will it replicate what Muss did? I don't know. That's tough. And will it satisfy the expectations? I don't know. He wasn't satisfying expectations at Kentucky. That's the only reason he's now at Arkansas.